starting the recording now. You can proceed, please.
Okay, and again, if everyone would put yourselves on mute and then take it off to speak so we don't get the background noise. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 4:04 and our first item is approval of the agenda. And I have a motion moved by Bill and seconded by Sherry that council suspend the rules of the procedural bylaw to allow delegations to move up to follow mayor's remarks and approve the agenda for the regular council meeting held October the 27th, 2020 as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Actually, I've got an addition to the agenda.
Oh, okay, Kathy, sorry.
Okay, under number 8, staff reports, just Halloween.
Okay. All right, so the agenda as amended. All right, all those in favor, let me see your hands. Victor, Nikki, Sherry, can't see any hands because you're off the video.
Sherry
Victor?
has her hand up.
It says yes.
Okay, I'm not seeing Victor, Nikki, or Sherry.
Victor is for the motion.
Nikki said yes.
I'm also a yes, Madam Mayor.
Excellent. Okay, motion's carried. Okay, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof of any item on tonight's agenda by any member of council? Hearing none, we'll note that in the minutes. And I have a motion moved by Cindy and seconded by Victor that council approve the minutes of the regular council meeting held October the 13th as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, is there anyone voting no? Hearing no no's and seeing no no's, the motion is carried. I have a dog I have to let in, just one. I'm back. All right. Mayor's remarks, just some brief remarks. We in KFNLNA are doing a fabulous job with the pandemic. However, certainly the cities around us are not doing well. And Dr. Moore is reinforcing that the people who live in those hot spots need to stay in those hot spots and that we need to stay close to home as well. Again, our numbers go up or down by 1 or 2 here and there, but the health unit and people, the residents are just doing a fabulous job. So just another few months, maybe another 6 months, whatever. Let's hope it happens more quickly to end than later. Don't think I have anything else. Does anyone else have anything to add? Halloween is coming up. Dr. Moore is not saying not to go trick-or-treating, but I would say to folks, if you don't want to hand out, put your lights out so that kids aren't coming to the door. I don't think we'll have too many kids. The school is having a candy handout, I believe.
Yeah, and I've got some information, Mayor, on that as well.
Okay, good. Okay. All right, so we'll leave that to the Halloween section. Okay, let's move on then to our delegations. We have Brad McNevin from Quinte Conservation Authority. Brad, are you with us? I see you there. There you are.
Smith, we do also have Christine McClure as well from Quinte. The two of them are on them.
Hi, Christine. Okay,
How
go
are you?
ahead, Brad. Christine.
Thank you for having us. I'm just going to give a brief introduction or intro to the project, and then I'll turn it over to Christine. Christine's our water resources engineer with Quinte Conservation, and we're here just to talk to you a little bit about the
Oh, we've lost you, Brad.
at the
Brad, we lost your audio.
Christine can hear me. I'll turn it over to Christine. Christine, can you take over?
Sure. Thank you all for having us here today. I'm sure you're all staying safe and warm and are glad you didn't have to drive in the snowy weather. So we're here to talk about the 13 Island Lake Dam. And maybe if there is interest in viewing the presentation, there is a report within your package. And I'm not sure if you wanted to put that on the screen. Perfect. So the 13 Island Lake Dam is at the outlet of 13 Island Lake in the township of South Frontenac. And it provides optimal summer recreation water levels for all of the properties on 13 Island Lake itself. The dam is made up of 4 corrugated steel culverts, and it has a gravel crest. And this gravel crest acts as a roadway connecting Hamilton Lane to approximately 12 properties along the lake. So on the package, there is a photo of the dam, the 4 culverts, and the staff at Quinte Conservation, install panels in front of those culverts to raise the water levels in the summer to create 13 Island Lake. So this is just a map of the lake itself. As you can see, there's a little blue dot in the most southern corner, and that's where the dam is located, just off of Desert Lake Road. And there's only a small portion of the lake which lies within central Frontenac Township. The dam itself and the culverts have experienced significant deterioration, as you can see in those photos. They've rusted through along the water line as well as at the bottom of the culverts. And the issue that this causes is we've recently, over the past couple of years, seen sinkholes develop in the gravel embankment. And those sinkholes, if they were to get progressively worse, if they were not noticed by staff or residents, then it could cause the dam to wash out, which is an issue for multiple reasons. One, for access and egress to the residents on Hamilton Lane. But secondly, there would be some, depending on how the dam was being operated at that time, you could have a washout from or release of water from 13 Island Lake as well. There's also in this photo on the screen some erosion on the downstream side between the culverts, and that may be caused by some flow through the embankment that's causing those sinkholes. The challenge is that these sinkholes develop very unexpectedly, and they pose a risk to the stability of the dam and public safety concern as well for those people on Hamilton Lane. So at Quinte Conservation, we're looking at potential solutions to repair the structure. Those include replacement of the structure itself, so removing what's there and replacing with brand new culverts, brand new embankment surface and road top, so that we're starting with fresh infrastructure. We could do kind of a quick fix and line the structure itself, the culverts, to prevent seepage through those holes. The challenge with that is if there is damage within that road embankment, within the dam, that may continue to progress. So imagine if there are holes within or voids, like empty space within the dam structure in the soils and rock. As rain falls, those holes could get larger, and we still might have a problem even if we line the culverts. Lastly, an option would be to decommission the dam itself and replace it with just a standard road crossing, whether that's culverts or a bridge. What you would notice in that scenario is that there would no longer be control of or higher water levels in the summer months for 13 Island Lake. So those are a few of the options that are being considered. We've looked into the timing that it would take to complete this project. Likely, if everything went smoothly, it could be done within a year. However, if for budgeting reasons or looking at a more complex solution or challenges with getting permits, we could be looking at a 2-year timeframe for the project. I went through 3 different methodologies for cost estimates. One was looking at our capital maintenance plan for our dams. One was my own calculation based on time and materials. And the third was sourcing from a local consultant, their estimates for fees for this type of work. And they all came in and around the same dollar value. So the design itself was in and around $95,000, the construction cost $300,000, and if we wanted an engineering consultant on site during the construction, that was an additional $30,000, but that's potentially something that Quinte Conservation staff could provide as a service. And just one note there is the construction costs don't consider potential complexity associated with if there were challenges maintaining access to Hamilton Lane during the construction period. So in terms of how these projects are typically funded, Quinte Conservation did apply both for federal and provincial grants this past fiscal year to repair this structure. We were unsuccessful for both applications, and unfortunately, provincially, we ranked the lowest. That was because of the use of the structure is primarily recreational. So it didn't score very high on the provincial asset waiting list. That's the funding we apply for is the Water and Erosion Control Infrastructure Fund. And it's open only to conservation authorities for dam structures. So it's a pretty small group that apply for those grants. But unfortunately, this structure just isn't really an eligible structure for their funding model. So the other portion of funding typically would come from the benefiting municipalities. In this case, South Frontenac Township and the Township of Central Frontenac both have lands around 13 Island Lake. That being said, Central Frontenac is a quite small portion compared to that of South Frontenac. So that's all I have in this report. So if there's any questions, I'm available to answer those.
Okay, excellent. Any questions or comments from anyone? Just say your name because I see you, Bill. Go ahead.
All right, Christine, why is it necessary to have 2 culverts in this area, and would there be a cost saving if you went to reduced it down to one culvert rather than 2? And in your application to the Ministry for Grants, was there any consideration of maintaining fish spawning grounds on this lake? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Great question. So as part of the engineering design for this dam, the engineering consultant would have to assess what flow would be required through those culverts, and they would also have to talk to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to determine whether they would prefer the dam or the functioning of the structure maintains water levels similar to existing conditions with the current structure, or whether that could be modified. And if there was a modification, and that could come through having a different amount of culverts potentially, or different sizes of culverts. If there was a change, there's likely more scrutiny and more analysis that has to be provided for MNRF to provide their approval. In terms of fish spawning, the water and erosion control infrastructure funding does not take that into consideration. They specifically deal with dams, and so many of the applications likely do create a barrier for fish, unfortunately. In the operation of this structure, it's operated only in the spring and the fall, so conditions are relatively stable within the environment in terms of the ability of fish to move through that fall, winter, spring period. It's the summer where your fish migration is kind of cut off.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I don't see or hear any. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, it's Brent. Just a quick question. Assuming that Quinty would be taking the lead on this project, has there been any thought as to how the construction costs are going to be prorated between Central and South Frontenac?
If Brad has audio, I'll let him answer this question, because the way our funding model works is actually written into legislation. So Brad, I see you're off mute. I'll let you take the lead.
Yeah, thanks. I'll leave my video off. Hopefully that will increase my internet connection, or let's correct. But in terms of the Conservation Authorities Act spells out that sort of that benefiting municipalities. So there is it would be structured similarly to the way that our municipal levies for our normal programming is divided up, and I can share that as an email to you in terms of what that would look like for sort of South Frontenac and Central Frontenac's proportion. I don't have that information right in front of me, but it would be a percentage of area that benefiting municipality has within our region.
And we would need that for budgeting as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you very much.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay. If there are no other comments, I have a motion. And it's moved by Nikki and seconded by Elwin, that council receive for information the delegation from Brad and Christine, Quinty Conservation Authority, and further that council consider the 13 Island Lake Dam project in its 2021 budget deliberations. Any further discussion? Hearing no no's, motion is carried. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have deferred items, and it's the Williams Lane. I will read the motion and then we can discuss it. Moved by Victor and seconded by Tom. Whereas council by resolution 284, 2020 agreed to defer the bylaw to stop up and close that part of lot 6, concession 7 Olden known as Williams Lane, until mid-September. And whereas the parties have sought extensions to this deadline for September 22nd and October 13th, which have been granted at the staff level. And whereas the parties have not yet provided any information of resolution of this matter to bring forth to council for October 27th. And whereas Mr. Sheridan has provided another submission in support of not closing the road, which staff is currently reviewing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council confirm staff may continue to defer this matter to give the parties and staff more time to review and seek resolution. Any questions or comments on that? Looks like everybody needs a bit more time, and hopefully we can get this done before the end of the year. Okay, hearing no questions or comments. Is there anyone voting no? Hearing no no's, the motion is carried. Next, we have staff reports, and the first one is, actually, let's do Halloween first, and then we'll do fire. Kathy, do you want to do the Halloween one?
Okay, I just took my mouth off mute just about. Anyway, I did receive an email today from Ann House, which is a member of the Yoso District 3 Recreation Committee, wanting to know if anyone had let us know that they are planning to have, are going to hand out candy in front of the township offices this Saturday from 4 until 7. And she wanted to know if we were aware of it and if we had any issues with that, as well as wanted to know if we had an electrical plug so that they're planning to have some lights. So that would help to attract, for the kids so they'd know. I'd sent back an email to Anne and said to her that we didn't see any issues with them certainly handing them outside of the municipal offices, because as the mayor mentioned about Dr. Moore and his comments, I did send to her though his statement from the KFLNA, which talks about avoiding gatherings with people outside of their household, that they're supposed to stay within their household. Also, both the trick or treat, if they're handing out candies, they should wear a face mask, costume mask or whatever, and not to congregate or linger, groups of them outside. So I have already shared this with them. So they're aware of what Dr. Moore has certainly recommending with that. Also, she did mention that Amrit Callion from the Granite Ridge Parent Council, they were wanting to know if we were aware as well. So this is for council also, is that they are planning to hand candy out in the parking lot of the Granite Ridge school there in their parking lot. They have had permission from Limestone Board. So I asked Anne as well to share that the media release from Dr. Moore as well. So they're aware of the amount of kids and no social gatherings, like a lot of kids at one time. So also there, and Sherry, I think she's got her hand up too.
Okay, Sherry, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to add to that, Kathy, and if Bill Bowick had anything he'd like to add, I just wanted to also make council aware that we did bag the candy last Thursday evening, so it had a week to sort of set after handling. Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that it was okay to go ahead with that. And if Bill would like to add anything.
Bill, do you have anything to add?
No, I just had a question. Kathy said that the Parent Association were doing this at the Granite Ridge School, but she didn't indicate what time they were doing it. The other one said 4 till 7. What's the Granite Ridge?
Same time, 4 till 7.
Okay, thank you.
Bill Bowick, did you want to add anything to it?
No, Sherry's covered it perfectly.
Okay, excellent. All right, now we will move to fire emergency services, and we have the activity report. And Jamie is with us somewhere here. I saw his name. Okay, I'm not sure why, but I get one picture at a time, maybe two. Anyhow, could be my strong internet up here in the hills. I have a motion moved by Tom and seconded by Victor that council receive for information the CFFR activity report for information. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, Bill here.
Go ahead.
To Jamie, Jamie, in your report, what's involved in other activities? Because it seems that the Kennebec group, Station 1 Arden, has a tremendous amount of other activities. But what does that entail?
For you, Madam.
I can't hear you, Jamie. I don't know about the rest.
Can you hear me now?
A little louder.
Jamie, we can't hear you at all.
No, and Jamie's over at the Mountain Grove Fire Hall.
Well, he can get back to me with that answer, Madam Mayor. It's not essential.
Okay. All right. Any other questions and comments on the report?
Madam Mayor, I'm not sure if this is the right time to ask or not.
Okay.
Jamie being in charge, what's the status on our hall openings? A lot of people are asking about that because every area around us has their halls open and we're kind of the marshmallow in a s'more and it's kind of not open. So
Where's the best part, Nikki?
Yeah, if somebody could just kind of let me know that.
Actually, probably Kathy could answer that. I don't believe Andy is with us.
No, Andy was maybe going to call in or whatever to look at. We did receive a copy just so that that you know from North Frontenac as to their protocols of opening the halls. So I think we just need to go over that, and I think they look pretty good. That we could probably follow suit as the same as theirs. The only one hall we won't be able to open yet would be the Soldiers Memorial Hall because they're still doing the work on the ceiling and installing all those lights. But we may be able to have an opportunity to open up the other halls. So I'll work with Andy certainly on that and Terry to look to see if those protocols will help for us as well.
Okay. Nikki, does that answer your question?
Perfectly. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bill?
Yeah, just I wanted to, I don't know whether Jamie can hear me, but I do appreciate the comparisons that he provided for members in regard to follow up to my question earlier. A lot of information, and I probably didn't understand it all, but I thanked him for it anyway. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Excellent. Okay. All right. We'll move on then to fire and medical response call comparisons. That's the next piece of information. And I just have to find my resolutions here. Okay. Moved by Sherry and seconded by Brent that council receive the fire medical response call comparison report as prepared by the acting manager of emergency services fire chief for information. And again, there was lots of information in there. Any questions or comments on that one? Hearing none.
Madam Mayor,
Oh,
if
yes.
I may, it's Victor here. Yeah, unfortunately, Jamie doesn't seem to be here to answer. But I just noticed, like, comparing Central and North have lots of medical calls. Bancroft has 0 medical calls, and I'm just wondering whether we're comparing apples to apples now, or whether the Bancroft situation is so different from ours that it's not really a proper comparison. But I guess.
Jamie is calling in. I saw a little notice. Every county or every area will do things differently. Bancroft may not have an agreement to be the first responders. I'm not sure. Jamie, are you able to speak? Cindy, do we have Jamie?
He's just calling in now, I believe.
Yes, I'm finally able to talk.
There we go. So the question was about Bancroft. Why is it so different than the rest of us?
So through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Hease's question, it's similar if you look at Bancroft and Tweed as well. you have to go into the other section, the other response sections, and you'll see medical calls there. And you bring those totals in with medical response, and that kind of evens it out and gets it to the 50-50, 60-40 medical fire splits.
Victor,
Okay,
does that
thank you.
answer your question?
Oh, well, on Bancroft, there is no medical calls at all, zero. So that was confusing. On Tweed, they have their medical calls 11%. So that was what sort of. I'm just wondering whether or not their situations are different. So North and Central, our medicals are 50 or above. Tweed's was 11. Bancroft didn't have it on the pie chart.
Again, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Heath. If you go to the detailed reports, Victor, and you look under non-fire and you look at medical rescue, you'll see Bancroft, or you'll see Tweed has listed 17 calls under other. And excuse me, I'm flipping through all the papers here quickly. And Bancroft has them split between rescue and other responses. So that, again, it's all in that, the check boxes that we use when we send in our data to the OFM, and how our record management systems, if they're used, if they're captured properly.
Okay, and again, go ahead.
Mayor, it's a similar issue that that we've been correcting with our data from 2014 to 2018, because the data wasn't communicated properly to the OFM because of the record management system that we were using.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
just one. If this would have any bearing, but of course, Bancroft does have a small hospital within its boundaries. So,
right.
Depending upon if you have a situation where you have a hospital within your town boundaries and you have maybe a good paramedic base, that could possibly answer part of the reason for the discrepancy. I wouldn't know for sure, and certainly we'd want to look into it more, but that could be a possibility.
Good point, Brent. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Is there anyone voting no to the motion? Motion's carried. All right. Thank you, Jamie. That's it for fire. Now we're moving to finance and treasury. And I have a motion moved by Cindy and seconded by Bill that council approve the check distribution reports totaling $1,719,340.43 as prepared by the treasurer. Questions or comments? Please, moving paper. Is there anyone voting no? Motion's carried. Next, we have apportionments moved by Elwin and seconded by Nikki that council approve the following apportionments of assessment as recommended by impact for 2020 as applicable for the following roll numbers. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roll numbers there. Any discussion? Hearing none. Anyone voting no? Motion's carried. All right, section 357 and 358. Moved by Nikki and seconded by Tom that council approve the following reduction of assessments pursuant to the Municipal Act. Roll number 1039, 040, 020, 135.50, Whalen, David, and Kathleen for the period of July 17th to December 31st, 2020, as reported by impact. Reason raised by fire, demolition, or otherwise, 357-1DI. Roll number 1039-10-020-06500, Guernsey Allen and Brown Elizabeth for the period of July 28th to December 31st, 2020, as reported by impact. Reason raised by fire, demolition, or otherwise, 357-1DI. Roll number 1039-070-010, 293,000, Newlands, Michelle, and Robert for the period of August 14th to December 31st, 2020, as reported by impact. Reason raised by fire, demolition, or otherwise, 357-1DI. And roll number 1039-040-020, 10,301, Incorporated Synod of the Diocese of Ontario for the period of June 7th to December 31st, 2020, as reported by impact. Reason raised by fire, demolition, or otherwise, 357-1DI. And further, that council approve an adjustment of taxes to be calculated by the tax department for the related period. Any discussion on that motion? Is there anyone voting no? Motion's carried. Okay. More treasury stuff. Michael's been busy. Revenue to expense budget. Moved by Cindy and seconded by Sherry, that council accept the revenue and expenditure budget to for the period ending September the 30th, 2020 for information. Any discussion on this motion? Michael is, I believe, here to answer any questions for us. Do I see Michael? There he is. Any questions or comments?
Tom has a question, I believe, Councillor Dewey.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
You're muted, Tom.
There we are. I guess we're good now. Anyway, Michael, I have a question on Public Works budget regarding on page 16. We budgeted $4.5 million, and we've only spent $2 million to date, and have a balance of $2.5 million left in our budget. And I guess my question on this is, after all the bills are paid for the Arden, Henderson, Oak Flats Road, are there still some additional expenses to be paid? And how much of this surplus is for the Charlotte Lake Village revitalization? And do you think there will be a large surplus in this line item going into 21?
That's a two-part question.
Yeah. So to Councillor Dewey, through your worship, I'd like to look at that a little further and maybe get back to Tom. I wouldn't think that there would be any surplus, not a huge one. Just trying to see the numbers that he was talking about. Sorry.
It's on page 16, Michael, in that report. There's $4.5 million budgeted, and we've only paid $2.5. So I just asked: is Arden, Henderson, Oak Flats, are those expenses, bills all paid already, and are they in there in that $2.5 million or $2 million?
So the road resurfacing projects I know are pretty much completed, but the Elizabeth Street bills are not all in. I know that.
Okay. Okay. Just seemed like a lot. We only got 2 months left basically in the year. It seemed like quite a bit left in there. Anyway.
Tyson, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was trying to jump in there through you, Madam Mayor. The resurfacing of those 3 roads, all those bills should be already included in that. There is a good portion of the Elizabeth Street project left to pay yet. They finished paving today, so we'll be able to do an inspection on that, do final quantities, but definitely not $2 million worth, that's for sure. Michael and I will look at this. I'm thinking that there's might be something to do with that loan, Michael, but we definitely need to chat.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Brent? I can see your hand.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, finally, I don't know, it's hidden off to the side. Just a question with regard to the COVID costs, and thank you for giving that update. I'm just wondering, just the nature of the billing cycle, do we think that there's going to be a dramatic increase in the amount of costs over the last part of 2020?
Councillor Cameron, through your worship, I don't expect a huge increase. The biggest expenses to date have been the interest write-off, which we're not doing anymore. The hall rentals are minimal. There could be another maybe 60,000, and part of that being bank interest being lower than last year. That's one expense that somebody else has included in that group of expenses to use up the COVID money. Anything on top of that has to be transferred into reserve, so it's to be used for 2021 COVID costs. We may end up with a little bit extra, but I don't think it'll be huge dollars.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, hearing no one else, is there anyone voting no to the motion? Motion's carried. All right, next is the Crow Lake Schoolhouse. And I have a motion moved by Tom and seconded by Elwin. Whereas historically, the township has had a lease agreement with the Crow Lake Community Association for the tenancy of the schoolhouse property located at 1867 Crow Lake Road. And whereas the association has terminated the lease and it is no longer operational. Somebody's got papers going. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the council declare this property surplus to the municipality's needs and direct staff to proceed to obtain an opinion of value and offer the property for sale by way of a request proposal. And further, that the request proposal does not contain any restrictions or conditions on the sale of the property, but the property be sold in an as-is condition and appraised as such. Discussion. No one has their hand up because I can't see anyone. Okay, I will call the vote. Is there anyone voting no? Motion is carried. Next on the agenda is Tay Havelock Trail, request from the Verona ATV Club. I have a motion moved by Bill and seconded by Sherry. Whereas the Ontario Federation of All-Terrain Vehicle Clubs through the local Verona ATV Club has approached council for permission to use Havelock Trail as part of its trail system. And whereas the Tay Havelock Trail is currently subject to a license of occupation with the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, which term is ending December 31st at 2020. And whereas council acknowledges the importance of the trail system to the economic and recreational well-being of our community and recognizes the benefit to having a coordinated trail system and strategy for all its trails within the municipality and the county of Frontenac. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff to pursue an option. And there's no option in my motion, so we need to discuss it and see if we can come to a conclusion as to what we want to do with this request. So who would like to start?
I'll start, Your Worship.
Okay.
It's Tom here, if nobody has an objection.
No, go ahead.
I don't support any proposal that's being presented here. I think that if we're going down this road, we need to get all the partners that were part of this original license of occupation agreement together. I believe this should involve all the mayors, the CAOs of the various municipalities. And it's not correct to say this thing expires on December 31st. The agreement that was originally established by all the municipalities was it's an automatic renewal, not one that dropped dead on December 31st. So it's an automatic renewal. So I think that going forward with all the things that are happening right now within all this trail system in Ontario, I think it's only fair that we talk to all the owners of the property that signed that original agreement. Right now on the EOTA board, we have 9 other partners in addition to Central Frontenac that are part of the board. And so I think it would be in everyone's best interest to include the general manager of EOTA and all the partners in any further discussion as to how we're going to go ahead, because there's a lot of things right now on the table with regards to grant money that's down the road. And I can't support any motion or any discussion at the moment on this until we talk to all the partners involved.
Okay. Anyone else? Bill?
Yeah, you've got two. You've got Bill and Victor both have their hands up, Fran.
Oh, sorry, Victor, I didn't see yours.
Bill can go first.
Okay.
Through Madam Mayor to Tom. Tom, do you have any information regarding, I saw some numbers in reading through here about the amount of money that the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance is spending in Central Frontenac. Just wondering if you have any information in regard to how does that compare to what the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance is spending in other members of the organization. I suspect that we have about the same amount of trails, and I heard the comment from someone before that the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance were spending quite a bit of money on the east than the K&P north of Sharp Lake, but I saw no evidence of that, but I stand to be corrected. And in my opinion, I think what we need to do is have a permitting system where all of the interest groups can get together and work this out rather than one person maybe charging another or disallowing other activities on the trails. Perhaps you could comment that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Well, Bill, if I may, Your Worship, through you. Bill, there are 2,700 kilometers of trail that is currently being managed by EOTA. And there's a lot of, the money doesn't always, like we put in $10,000 a year. This last year, I believe there was 28,000 spent in Central Frontenac alone. But there are a lot of bridges within that 2,700 kilometers that need to be repaired, and they're very costly to repair. So over the years, we have been able to apply for grant money and get money to repair those bridges. We still have a couple major bridges that need repair, and we've already got some applications out for grants, and I can't elaborate on that anymore at the moment. But going down the road, we've been working very hard with the province of Ontario. We definitely want to get a one-pass system in, as everybody wants, that uses their ATVs, and that's going to happen. It's just a very slow process that we're going through right now, Bill.
Okay, now Vic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the recommendation section, the first paragraph or the first sentence there says that the Ontario Federation of All-Terrain Vehicle Clubs, through the local Verona ATV Club, has approached council for permission to use the Tay Havelock Trail as part of its trail system. But now in the background information, the OFATV came to council to request permission for the club. And I'm wondering if that is like specifically the Verona Club to access the Tay Havelock Trail. So my question is it possible for us to grant the Verona ATV Club access to our trails, but not OFATV? I know that there is tension between OFATV and EOTA, and I don't want to exacerbate that tension, but it would be nice if a local club like the Verona ATV Club would have access without giving access to everybody in OFATV.
Can I answer that, Your Worship?
Sure, go ahead, Tom.
They could easily get access. All they need to do is buy an EOTA permit. But let me answer that question a little further. The problem here is that if we give them access just through Central Frontenac, when they get into Lennox and Addington, then they would have to have another permit. So they're only going to be able to use that within Central Frontenac. And so this is really undermining the whole purpose of this trail system in Ontario and getting a one-pass system. You're only talking about one club here, and they seem to be an island unto themselves. They want to do their own thing. So we have no account. We don't know what they spend their money on. They say they buy a couple garbage containers. But the fact of the matter is, and I think through that presentation you got from OFATV, a portion of that goes to administration, but there's no accountability for the rest of the money. And it's the thing that bothers everybody. But again, we're working with the province. We've got a couple of the ministers that are on board with what we're trying to do. And there is a lot of grant money that we've applied for, and hopefully It's been delayed a bit by the province, but hopefully this will get approved as we go down the road.
I just want to
Any
make
other?
mention as well I did receive a phone call and a message from Cindy Cassidy this afternoon, but I was unable to get back to her. And her message was that she reiterated that, yes, that license agreement does not expire as of December 31st. It automatically renews. And I think that, as Cindy put in the report, we're not saying, but it does renew, provided you don't have it to expire on our own or make a decision if council makes the decision. And she did say there was a lot of dollars up in the air with all this. So, but I didn't get a chance, as I said, to have a further discussion. But I think, Councillor Dewey has already expressed, I think, some of those comments that she left a message to me, just so that you know that she did try to get a hold of us. And unfortunately, time has run out for me to even get back to her.
Actually, if I could add to that, Your Worship, to what Kathy has said, if you look at the original agreement, Kathy, and I think maybe Francis thought too, in that agreement, that any of the partners that are part of the original agreement can get out of the agreement with 6 months' notice. So this is not even doable between now and the end of the year.
No, but it is doable with 6 months' notice. And I did talk to Cindy this afternoon, and I basically said to her that this system has got to change. And in my estimation, if it doesn't get changed, then I think we should opt out of EOTA and then let everybody have their fight. They'll finally sit down and come to one agreement that nobody's going to win this way. She did tell me that there is a meeting November the 25th, and she's pretty confident that a decision will be made at that point. And I suggested to her that if a decision wasn't made at that point, that maybe the municipalities should get together and stop all of their agreements with everybody until all of these organizations come together and settle it once and for all. It's not fair to our residents to have to buy 3 or 4 different permits to ride on our trails. The taxpayers of Central Frontenac have paid for this, and if they want to be able to go out, they need to be able to understand one pass system. It is so logical. My recommendation is maybe we should defer this tonight, give Cindy the November 25th meeting to get things resolved. And if it isn't, then maybe we need to look at what our options are, one of which being to meet with the other 9 and see what they think about all of this, and to look at whether or not we want to stay in with the EOTA agreement. I think somebody has to push the province, the organizations, to make this decision. It's such common sense. I don't understand why it's not happening. I think it's a money thing. But that would be my recommendation if somebody would want to defer this motion until after the November meeting with the OTA.
Madam Mayor, I'd be happy to do
Bill and
that.
Sherry are on the original motion, so you could just have it and maybe defer that one.
I think we need a motion of deferral.
Oh, okay.
Bring it
I would
back.
make a motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Sherry and Brent.
I'll second it, yeah.
Okay, to defer this motion.
And can we defer it to the December meeting?
Yes,
Because by the time we get, and
set that date that's coming up on the December 8th, I think it is.
Yes, and we'll Tom, you can let Cindy know that we've deferred it and that December meeting we'll deal with it again.
I totally agree, and I think that's a good idea there, but I think we've got to sit down as a group with the other members of the original group and the mayors and the CEOs or whoever, and sit down and hash this thing out. But let's wait until the December meeting.
Okay, so we've got to vote on the deferral. Is there anyone voting no to the deferral? Okay, that motion is deferred and we'll come back on December's meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We are now going to deal with sewage systems. Moved by Victor and seconded by Tom. Whereas Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox and Addington Public Health Unit have provided notification of their intent to terminate the agreement to carry out the municipality's responsibility for sewage systems under the Ontario Building Code Act and regulations effective January 1, 2021. And whereas staff are recommending that council approve in principle of a regional approach for Part A with the other Frontenac townships, with South Frontenac Township being the service provider, subject to South Central and Frontenac Islands councils all agreeing to this proposal. And whereas if all Frontenac Township councils agree, that council authorize the CAO clerk to negotiate and sign the required agreements to implement this, and that staff prepare an amending building bylaw to include Part 8 septic program. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council receive the report entitled Part 8 of Ontario Building Code Sewage Systems as prepared by the CAO for information, and further instruct the CAO to continue to work with the Frontenac Township CAOs on a regional approach model to possibly provide all building and septic services collectively in the near future for council's consideration. Discussion.
I might as well start this again, Your Worship.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, thank you very much. Here again, I don't support this proposal. I personally don't feel our installers in the municipality of Central Frontenac will get properly serviced by going this way. And also we have the added workload of the mandatory septic reinspection, which we have not done this year, and we'll probably hopefully get back at it next year. I strongly support the hiring of our own full-time inspector for the Part 8, and who we could also take a look at someone that's also qualified as Part 9 to assist our current CBO. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to support this motion to go ahead.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion?
Madam Mayor, it's Victor.
Yes, Victor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe the motion is merely exploratory. It's not that we are signing an agreement yet. It's giving our CAO the permission to go ahead and have talks. And I think within those talks, we can address the issues that Tom brings up about making sure that our installers here are going to be properly and timely serviced with their inspections. So I would support moving ahead with the exploration talks. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily, this is not an agreement that we are going to go down that road. It's only we're going to look at it. That's my understanding of the motion.
I'll point out it says approve in principle, and it's also dependent on the other townships getting involved as well. Kathy, is that true?
Yes, that's correct. And I will, I already know that North Frontenac Township has passed the same resolution. We've collectively sort of worked together on the resolution. So they have at their meeting on Friday, the same as ours, as in principle, so that we can further negotiate and certainly discuss it. And Councillor Hayes is correct in the fact that we will talk about, whether about, housing the person, the availability, how we're going to work, and those things will come forth as to make sure that all our residents certainly would be well served.
Okay. Brent?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I support the motion. I agree with Victor's view that it's good to have these talks. We're obviously not locking ourselves to anything at this particular point in time, but given the fact that we're at the end of October and, we have 2 months before this changeover, we have to have something in place. Obviously, there's not a lot that's going to be going on in January and February, but once the spring happens, we're going to have something in place, whether it be a shared service agreement with the other townships or our own. It doesn't hurt for us to go on a dual track in terms of figuring out what's the best option. So, again, we need to have these discussions, and if there's an opportunity for us to leverage the support, it's great. If the talks are not going to lead to anything, let us find out as soon as possible so we have enough time to make our own individual arrangements.
That's correct. We will.
Okay. Okay, Bill McDonald?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, I support the motion because it's exploratory. And I suspect that when the information comes back to us, they will have a cost analysis of us actually doing it from a regional perspective versus us going alone on our own. And I think some of the information will indicate that, you know, in this case, perhaps a little bigger might be better. But I look forward to getting information before I make a decision. So I support this motion of moving forward this way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to add one more comment on that, Your Worship. The
Sure.
problem I see with this exploratory, it's going to take, who knows, month, 2 months, and we're already now it could be a year. But then we're into next year, and we haven't got a person to do the Section 8 inspections. And also, I think we need to start looking for somebody soon as opposed to later. And then at least this will give us a sense of direction. But if we wait until they do all this exploratory and negotiating back and forth to get council's approval, we're into several months here of wasted time. Still can't support it.
Tom, I don't believe that will be the case.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kathy.
So I mentioned a little further is that we're going to be having a meeting, all the Frontenacs with the KFLNA Public Health. KFLNA Public Health have said yes. They have said the cutoff was November the 13th in regards to inspections. They have honored that they have told, and that's what we're going to get confirmed on Friday, is that they will continue to do those inspections as of up to the end of December. So I think the cutoff on November 13th was for anyone applying for any new permits to them. But no, if there's any that's already been applied and they're in the work process, they would be willing to finish that up as of December 31st. So we are going to be, and you're correct, we are going to be having further discussions on this, and we're not going to be waiting months and months. I think within the next month or so, before December, we plan to have something to come back to the councils to certainly approve.
Well,
okay. My ground is getting white up here, so the inspections of septic systems will soon be over in the north anyway. Bill, did you have another comment? And then I'm going to call the question.
Okay, I agree. I do go to waylay Tom's concerns a little bit, but I do believe there is already some expertise in-house. If I remember some of the discussion that happened, that if there was an absolute necessity to do a further, I'm sure we could either use in-house expertise, or we could probably call on the health unit for something that might happen in an emergency system in a way. So I'm confident of this moving in the direction we're going in.
Yeah,
thank you, Madam.
Andy's on the line as well. So if you, both him, he can speak to his availability, but he is qualified, and so is Crystal. Both of them are qualified to be able to do inspections, and those things may happen anyway. So those things will be made, arrangements will be made out. So, but Andy is on the line as well.
Okay. Andy, do you have anything to add?
Yes, Madam Mayor, can you hear me?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Crystal and I are both have Part A qualifications. We just lack the experience that a qualified inspector would have. But legally, we can do inspections. The problem I have right now is time, and I know I wouldn't have time to take on any extra workload. But I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm just concerned about the particulars of the agreement, how it would be brought into place.
Definitely any agreement will be sent to the lawyer as well, so we're not getting ourselves to something that we can't get out of if it's not working, and just to be sure that we're protected.
Can I just ask Andy a question, Your Worship? Andy, would it not be? Can I just, Andy, I just want to ask you a quick question. Would it not be more advantageous to yourself to have somebody with Part 8 and also have Part 9, so that would take some of the load off of you?
It would be. I talked with Kathy. Even somebody with Part 9 would take, if I could give the workload that I have now to them, then, Crystal and I could handle part 8 is one way I was looking at it. But, and that would give me, more time to manage things in my department. But that's another way of looking at it is hiring a part 9 inspector, and then, then we could fill in the part 8.
Would it be fair to say that? Would it be fair to say that if you did hire that, they could actually get their part 8 to help out too?
Yeah, that's a possibility as well.
Good. I like that option. Anyway,
the problem though is there are not a lot of folks out there with part 9. South Frontenac, we're not able to attract any part 9 holders.
No, part 8, Fran.
Or part 8s. No, part 8s. Yeah. It's the building inspector that's hard to get.
No, but I think they did end up getting somebody.
Madam Mayor, if I may, for my reading of the background, it was not that it's difficult part 8 or part 9. It's difficult to find somebody with part 8 and part 9.
Yes, with both. Okay, I'm going to call the question. This is to agree in principle to authorize Kathy to start into some severe talks and to see just what can come out of that. And it's not tying our hands. Is there anyone voting no besides Tom? Motion's carried. Can you mark Tom as voting no to that?
Right.
I guess we don't have to. It wasn't a recorded vote.
No, it wasn't a recorded vote.
All right. Now, let's go on to a nice subject. And this is a bench in memory of Shirley Pruniak.
Yeah.
And a request from the Heritage Society. Let me get my motion here. It is moved by Cindy and seconded by Brent. Whereas council has received a request from Sandra Mose to install a bench in memory of Shirley Pruniak. And whereas the Central Frontenac Railway Heritage Society is requesting council support to purchase benches and waste receptacles. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council approve the request from Sandra Mose to install a bench in the memory of Shirley Pruniak on the parcel of land overlooking Sharbot Lake towards Craig's Island before Thompson's Cut. And further, that council support the Central Frontenac Railway Heritage Society initiative to purchase and to the placement of benches and waste receptacles along the Railway Heritage Park and Thompson's Cut corridor through the village of Sharbot Lake. Discussion? Bill?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have no concerns in regard to installing the benches along here. The waste recycle or receptacles maybe create a problem with unless we intend to do a garbage pickup on a daily basis, because I recall when we had the receptacles at the Oso beach, that folks coming from the islands and stuff looked like a convenient place from which to deposit refuse. And so I would be concerned with waste recycling or items or receptacles being placed along that area, because I think it would be quickly become an eyesore.
Kathy, do we have a pickup proposed? Like, is the township picking up the garbage in these receptacles and keeping the place clean?
No, that request
did not
come forth.
See, that's the problem. If you put these out, somebody has to be in charge of dumping them and keeping the area cleaned up around.
Now, I know that Gary Miller called me today in regards to this request, and he was thinking council was last week, and to see whether or not what council were supporting this initiative. If that waste receptacles are certainly an issue, I can certainly mention that to him as to their ability. Are they going to be picking up the garbage if they're used? I can certainly express that across to Gary as well for their group.
I don't think any of us have a problem of doing it. We just have a problem with making sure that it's going to be maintained.
absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? Is there anyone voting no? Hearing no no's, the motion is carried. Okay, next, noise bylaw updates. Moved by Elwin and seconded by Bill, that council review the revised draft noise bylaw prepared by the CAO clerk and provide feedback and comments to staff so that the final bylaw can be brought back to council at the November 24th council meeting. Any discussion?
Well,
Bill, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just a question. In there was a line about discharging a firearm in the township. I'm just wondering if that means that we're not going to allow any hunting going on in where perhaps firearms will be discharged. I found that one kind of a difficult one to enforce, because you're going up to somebody with a gun in their hand and you're saying you can't fire it. And I was just wondering if there's a time frame attached to that, rather than just saying no discharging of firearms.
Kathy or Cindy?
There's no timeline on this at this point. I just presented it back to council for further review for more input. I had been doing a fair amount of research to find noise bylaws, and I know some of the comments from the two delegations when they had certainly made comments about decibels, and I could not find any of the rural municipalities, not even the city of Kingston, talks about decibels at all in their bylaws. I went to the city of Ottawa's bylaw. They have a very good bylaw in regards to that. So what I've done is taken some things from there. There is some more tweaking that needs to be done, absolutely. I also spoke with, so council knows, I spoke with Leanne Rutan, our bylaw enforcement officer, this afternoon, and she was asking me some questions, which I will contact actually the city of Ottawa, because I know the CAO and he also is the solicitor for the city, to find out in regards to enforcement issues, about the decibels, and seeing what their if they've had any concerns or problems with that. So yes, so I'm looking for more feedback. Certainly send me some more information. I'll be doing some more tweaking and changes, in regards to adding and certainly subtracting, but no, I've made a note about the discharging of firearms.
Oh, I don't know where worship is there. Can I, here's Fran. Hey, your
Sorry,
worship.
I have dogs
Tom.
that run in and out, and I'm their master.
Those things got. Anyway, I have a couple comments, and I think I already sent in after the previous meeting when we had this on the agenda. But I am in agreement with Mr. McDonald. I think we have to look at the central Frontenac area that has a lot of rural jurisdictions. And I think the zones, Kathy, if you look at on page, what page is it here? On page 8, I think it's with whatever that page is where they define the different zones. They qualify as they got a quiet zone, a residential zone, and then they got rural. I think we got to be specific on each zone and define what that is, because I cannot see not allowing a firearm to be discharged in the rural area of central Frontenac. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of hunters in this area down your neck. The other thing is on page 4 with regards to the construction equipment, and this I believe was addressed before, and it may already be covered under this section here. Oh my God, let me get it here. 5D. What the hell section? Let me see here. But anyway, under this, it says that no, I believe I'm not in agreement with limiting that just to 8 hours a day for construction equipment, because I think Tyson would have an objection to this, because if you look at the construction in the summer months, especially on our roads and in the area, normally that runs for about 12 hours, 7 to 7 kind of thing. So I can't see us limiting the construction to just 8 hours. So I don't agree with some of the things that are in here, and I've already passed my comments along, but nothing has been changed since I sent that previously.
No, and I did not get all those changes all made up on that one. I was basically looking for information in regards to the decibels as to whether or not this is certainly council's document and certainly bylaws, and we can certainly Council, that's why we need the input. That's why council, if you wish, yes, the construction 12 hours a day, we'll put it at 12 hours a day. It's a working document. So that's why it's out there. But no, I did not get all the other changes made. And I do have a copy of yours, Tom, in regards to that. And certainly they will be made changes, but there is a lot more tweaking yet to be done for it. So
Thank you very much, Kath.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I do know the one big thing that I've heard from both of the folks that I've talked to is the need for a building around a generator so that it keeps the sound down. I don't know if there should be specifications in here of exactly what should be built. Maybe Andy with his building code could do a whole section on what's expected when you build a building to put your generator in to make it more soundproof without making it blow up because it's too hot. It's got to be vented and all that, I'm sure. But I think that would be something that a neighbor could say to a neighbor, look, here's the bylaw. It even tells you how to build something to reduce the sound. I think that would be helpful. Andy, do you have specs on how to keep a generator quieter? There he is. Can't hear you. Anyhow, let's send our comments to Kathy so that we can get this maybe for our next agenda. Sorry, there you are, Andy. Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Bill.
No. One of the things I would caution staff in putting together these this noise bylaw is that all of this has to be enforced in some way, shape, or form. So I give credit to staff for coming up with what did they say, a common sense response or bylaw that in actual fact we're not going to be continually having people in front of us complaining about this or that. I'd like to see a bylaw that recognizes the area that we live in, the occupations that people are involved in, and the activities that normally do go on. For example, as I mentioned, Tom mentioned hunting. So let's put together a noise bylaw that in actual fact we can work with, and actually, if we have to, we can enforce it rather than long drawn out affairs.
Right,
That's my comment.
And the other thing is too, it's like a lot of the rural ones that I looked at, when I know there was comments about putting decibels, and I spoke to Leanne Rutan this afternoon, and she said of all the municipalities that they, do bylaw enforcement, not one of them talks about decibels at all. So I don't know how they control or to deal with the noise. So just to put that out there is, and certainly, it is difficult to try to find some bylaws that might be more, reasonable, and certainly with a rural area like ours. So that's why I've had to go to other sections and certainly other areas. And it seems to be the cities have the ones about decibels. But yes, it'll be another work sent to you.
Okay. Okay, so that motion is before us. Any other comments? Please send your comments to Kathy so she has. Doesn't mean they'll be incorporated, but they will be assessed and reviewed and looked at how they can be handled. Okay, is there anyone voting no? Motion's carried. Next we have committees. Moved by Tom and seconded by Sherry that council receive the Drinking Water Source Protection Authority agenda for October 15th, 2020 meeting and minutes from the July 9th, 2020 teleconference meeting for information. Any discussion? Seeing none, motion's carried. And I have a dog that wants in again, so if I disappear, that's where I've gone. Moved by Nikki and seconded by Brent that council receive Quinte Conservation Authority Executive Board meeting agenda. Did I not just do that one?
No, you didn't.
Okay. How come these are all separate? Anyway, Executive Board meeting agenda for October 15th, 2020 meeting and the minutes from September 17th, 2020 teleconference meeting for information. Discussion? All those in favor? Or sorry, I can see quite a few of you now. I can
I'll put up 2 hands and that'll be 2 people.
All right, motion's carried. And moved by Tom and seconded by Elwin that council received the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority approved minutes from August 27th, 2020 board meeting for information. Any discussion? All those in favor? Get your hands up, folks, now that I can see you. Motion's carried. Okay, moved by Bill and seconded by Tom that council received the following correspondence for information, and it's 1 to 9 in your package. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Moved by Bill and seconded by Sherry. Whereas the Snow Road Snowmobile Club has requested a memorandum of understanding with EOTA to use the trails for its snowmobile club activities. And whereas the EOTA wishes to use the right of use agreement rather than the memorandum of understanding. Whereas the township's license of occupation with the Eastern Ontario Trail Alliance requires the municipality to consent to any assignment or sub-granting of rights to any third party. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council receive the request permission for EOTA to sub-assign its rights to the Snow Road Snowmobile Club on the basis of the right to use agreement.
Madam Mayor, it's Victor. Hello, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Victor.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering what's the difference between the effect of a memorandum of understanding and a right of use agreement?
Madam Mayor, if I may jump in there.
Cindy.
When I talked to Cindy Cassidy about the memorandum of understanding, what they have developed is a more robust document to protect with respect to liability that they prefer their snowmobile clubs to use. It's generally speaking the same thing. It's just a little bit more detailed. It goes into a little bit more insurance requirements, and it requires a $15 million insurance indemnity clause in it.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay. Moved by Victor and seconded by Nikki. Whereas correspondence was received from Villages Beautiful on January 30th, 2020, and again on October 20th, 2020. And whereas the letter was forwarded to the Development Services Manager for his information and action. And whereas steps have been taken to address the matter, but a response has not been sent to Villages Beautiful. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the council acknowledge receipt of the letter dated January 30th, 2020, and authorize the CAO clerk to respond and address Village Beautiful's concerns. And I have to say that I think I saw the letter, but I think it got lost in some paperwork and really didn't get anywhere, but we're dealing with it now. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motions. Cindy and Victor, I didn't see your hand. Oh, there's Cindy's. Victor's frozen. Nikki and Sherry? Okay. I'm going back to the
I'm
no
in
vote.
favor of it, Madam. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, yeah, motion's carried. All right. Now, public meetings are in. There are no bylaws. Any notices of motion? Any giving of notice of motion?
None.
Any new or other business?
None.
And then we have closed session. And I have a motion for closed. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Moved by Cindy and seconded by Sherry that council move into closed session to discuss matters regarding a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board pursuant to section 239(2)K fire services. Is there anyone voting no?
Madam Mayor, I'll
Motion's
be
carried.
leaving you at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Everyone else will be coming back? Okay, good. So we leave this meeting. The email was sent out just before this meeting for the closed session. Is that right, Cindy?
Yep.
Or was that to return to council?
That was the one right before the meeting was the one to return. I think the one for the closed session was probably sent on Friday afternoon.
Okay. All right, so we'll leave this one and reconvene in closed.
Sounds good.